Hello, and welcome to this week's Drag Race USA.
Take two.
Take two, because story. Anyway, it didn't work. So,
Blah, 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 blah. Under protest.
yes, I wasn't going to bother because I was just like, this week. There are a couple of things we probably want to say. And we have my wonderful notes.
Yeah.
So we had Bossy Rossi After Dark as the... What were you about to say something?
Well, I was also going to say that this is an abject lesson in that RuPaul needs to learn to enunciate better. We'll come to that later.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'd forgotten that, actually, yeah. I'll let you tell that story because it's probably funnier because it's making me look stupid. So,
and me, to be fair.
You didn't admit that at the time. Yes, so Bossy Rossi After Dark. Some of the queens thought they ruled it. Some of the queens didn't. And I just didn't think any of them were that great. I didn't laugh at all. None of it was funny to me. They gave them the characters, right? So
Pretty much.
So Utica was working to a character that she'd semi-chosen, semi-been given.
Well, she'd kind of, because she wanted to
do the mime. I think she'd have been great at the mime.
I think she'd have been amazing at the mime. I think, to be fair,
Olivia was great at the mime.
Yes,
but it wasn't hilarious.
No.
Improv's hard, you know. Improv was a lot of what I did as a young person. Young lad. This sounds terrible. But we used to do a lot of improv at the youth theatre I went to for many years. It was a big staple of what we did as kind of warm-ups and week in, week out. And it is difficult. And the thing I always found with improv is actually you think you're funnier when you're with your clique or your social group because you know each other and you've got an understanding and you've got like situational stuff and private jokes and whatever. Someone from outside that doesn't always find it funny. In fact, quite rarely. So it is hard. I mean, it's when you sort of really appreciate things like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Just actually how tough what they did week in, week out for like 20 years or however long that show ran is.
Especially when you think about how much of that probably ended up on the cutting room floor to get that 20 minutes.
That was, they probably filmed for like a full 3-hour evening. I mean, the classic example for me was always... funny enough, picture I shared on Facebook today of me in a show. There was supposed to be a very brief sketch to open the second half and draw the raffle because it was a charity show. It was raising money for a friend of mine's sister who needed a car to go to university. And back in those days, you didn't have the mobility schemes you do now. So the fact that she needed an adapted car was something in the region of they had to raise 30 grand, and the other 30 grand would be granted to them. But they had to come up with half the money, and it was a big deal back in the mid-90s. And so there were lots of things to raise money. And one of them was the Wheels Uphill show, which basically everything in it had to sort of tie back to a car somehow. But like all good shows, and this is still the deal in amateur theatre, there's a raffle. There's always a bloody raffle. So what myself and my best Judy at the time when we were at uni, and still a very dear friend of mine, David, we were asked to do this raffle, and it became, rather than like 2 or 3 minutes of us just go on, sort of be a bit camp and outrageous and then bugger off, it became like a 15-minute sketch because it just kept growing and growing and growing. And everyone in the rehearsals were always like, "Oh my god, this is brilliant! This is brilliant! This is hilarious! This is the funniest thing!" And David and I used to go back to my house afterwards and sort of play PlayStation 1 and eat pizza. And we were genuinely
dating it quite significantly.
Yeah. It was the show was January '96, I think. But it was proper. We had massive anxiety over. Yeah, but they're all our friends. They find us funny. Is a complete audience of strangers going to find this funny? Now, we were very, very, very lucky, and actually, genuinely, we were hilarious. And for 3 nights on the trot, sold out houses, we got an extremely good response, and we had several other offers to appear in shows as a double act off the back of it. So, in that occasion, yes, it did work, but it was an honest to God fear we had of until that first night. We were. But what if it's just because it's our friends who are going, "Oh my god, it's David and Paul being David and Paul," rather than complete strangers going, "These guys just aren't funny." So I kind of get it, but it is hard, it is tough, and I don't think any of them achieve what me and David did. Bottom line.
And to any of those drama students out there watching, that's how you do a Shakespearean monologue.
You're such a cunt. I knew he was going to get me back for that. I knew you fucker. At least I'm trained in Shakespearean monologues. Let's just put it that way. A bit of a fail on the task as far as we're concerned.
Yes.
And
Which
then
is a shame because it's Bossy Rossi. And
yeah, see, Ross is funny.
Ross Matthews as a judge is amazing, but I think it's very much Ross is the king of like quippy, campy one-liners and put-downs, and again, surprisingly for an American, very self-deprecating, almost British sometimes with some of his digs at himself, but doesn't always equate well to actually like a skit format. So yeah, not good.
No, I mean, Ross came off the best out of everyone in that whole section of the show. So then we had the main challenge, and the theme for that was
well, we didn't actually realise what the theme of that was until
about 3 dresses in.
It was 2 or 3 dresses. So Denali comes out wearing like basically a chandelier outfit, and we're both sat there just like going, "What?" I mean, it was a lovely outfit. Don't get me wrong, but I'm thinking, what's that got to do with the challenge? That makes no sense at all whatsoever.
I mean, I'm sure Sia would have wanted to have swung from it, but who knows?
And then who came out next? It was
Rosé.
With a rainbow. I didn't remember the rainbow butterfly.
It was kind of like a swimsuit with little beads making. Okay, basically, butterfly is what I saw. I don't think it looked anything like a butterfly.
Right. Okay.
It was I want to say yellow swimsuit, and it had kind of like a pattern that kind of did this.
Right.
And that's probably where I got the butterfly from. Okay. But in my head, I just saw butterflies.
Yes. So again, watching that, just thinking, this still makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And then Lala Ree came out, and
with all of her tassels.
Yes, tassels, and literally it was like a penny drop moment. It was like, oh, the challenge isn't beat it, it's bead it. So it's outfits involving beads, and suddenly everything made sense at that point.
I was genuinely expecting them to come out as the gang members from Michael Jackson's Beat It video. So when a chandelier bloody came out, I was like. Which, interestingly, that's a big misheard lyric for me.
What, a chandelier?
Chandelier. No, Chandelier by Sia. Because for the first... It was years, not weeks or months. I used to think, not chandelier, but it was sugary sweet. And I couldn't work out why she was going to... I didn't know what the word before was, actually, I think. But...
Swing from a sugary sweet?
Yeah. I want to be on the sugary sweet. Yeah, and that was what it was in my head for years. I
didn't even know the song, so I've got no idea how
1, 2, 3,
comedically
1,
bad
2,
that
3,
is.
3, 1, 2, 3, no. You were not, when I was watching Masked Singer US last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, oh, that one's Gladys Knight.
Yeah.
That's what she sang.
Okay.
I started watching Masked Singer US from the beginning because I needed Masked Singer in my life now the British one's finished. Loved La La Rees, actually.
I didn't mind it, but it was a bit basic again.
Yeah. Well, let's see how that works. Then it was Gottmik, and I've just written 60s and Bead Head.
Yeah, that's bad. I can't even remember Gottmik's. And normally I'm a huge fan of Gottmik's outfit. I'm sure again 60s, it was very good.
60s and Bead Head. No idea. Not a clue. Not a clue. Olivia Lux, I've written Cleopatra coming at you.
Yeah, I mean, Olivia Lux basically reminded me a bit of a African American kid from in this case, because it was quite graffiti, so it would be the 80s. But it was very much, the Afro bead hair, which actually sort of completely unrelated. Well, actually, not completely unrelated, but certainly at the time, because we didn't think of it. I remember Gottmik's.
Oh, you can?
Yes.
Well, I'm very happy for you.
It's the anal beads.
Oh!
And the reason I remember that is...
That doesn't say and. It says anal.
To be fair, I'd read that as and.
It says anal bead head.
We would show you, but it doesn't equate that well. But it's literally A-N-D when it should be A-N-A-L.
Can we make that work? I don't know. We probably can. Oh, hello.
Oh, it's got very blue.
Yeah.
Which is, ironic because we were talking about anal beads.
Where's Gottmik there? Put this finger here. Anal beadhead and beadhead.
But the only reason I suddenly remembered that was because I saw a Facebook post from the wonderful Tom, who can't be with us tonight because this is literally a last minute.
But it's like he was dead.
That's why I said can't be with us tonight, as opposed to cannot be with us ever.
Because, it's Tom. Tom would find a way.
Because he put a post. I mean, I don't think it's his post. I think it's one he shared. Right. But it's basically the runway tonight is resemblance, and it's basically like comparing the current queens with outfits that were very similar to previous queens. Yeah. Sometimes within the same series. But Gottmik was one of them because you commented on the fact that you recognised
I'd seen it before.
Styling.
And I want to say it was, who was Ornacia? Was Ornacia the queen or was Ornacia the head?
Ornacia was the head.
So I think it's that queen did it.
Possibly.
I want to say it was that queen did
but
it. More or less the same.
Look up Tom Spersky's on there because you had Olivia basically was essentially wearing the same outfit that Candy Muse had actually worn 4 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Complete with the beaded hair and everything. And I forget who the third one was.
But there was
Utica. It was Utica in the challenge. Was very Gigi Good in one of her runway looks. Yeah. But that's the thing with Olivia. Again, it was I thought it was okay as an outfit. But I didn't think it was particularly groundbreaking. For me, most of the beading was just in the hair. Whereas someone like Denali had basically, beaded the entire outfit. So yeah, it was very 80s sort of.
See, I would have said
Project Street Kid.
I would have said more. I don't know when. I don't know what era. But there was something Janet Jackson about it. I think it was the delivery more than the look.
And the wedge trainers, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, I just saw Cleopatra coming at you. That's just what I saw. Utica was the whole bride thing.
Yes, which again, loved.
Well, it's the first time I've not just gone, wow, though.
Yeah.
Am I getting used to her, or was this not up to her normal standard?
I'd say it's possibly a bit of both. Because again, it was quite... I mean, simple for something from Utica is this like, what the hell complex city for the rest of us. But I think for a Utica design, especially when you consider what she'd done with a bloody sleeping bag, this was... and again, I'm not a drag performer. I'm not a sort of tailor or sewer in any way, shape, or I wouldn't even know where to start with this sort of stuff. But for Utica, this came across as basically like a tailoring 101 type outfit with basically just a bit of dye and a bit of a makeup job to essentially look like the bloody bride, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't as blown away by this as I have been by some of Utica's other outfits. But it was still definitely one of the best on the runway.
Yeah. Then you had Candy, and all I've written is the first stole covers it all.
Oh, yeah.
How did she not get read to filth again?
Yeah.
How?
Especially because
it's basically you've got no outfit. You just walked out and covered everything up with her, and that covered up everything that had the beads on.
Yeah. And it's a shame because what we could see of the outfit, it actually did Candy, it looked really good.
Yeah, for Candy. Yeah, that's not bitchy at all. But yeah, I just don't see Candy. She's just pun intended. She's a sweet enough girl for sure. I think there's a little bit of a nip on the shoulder, but you get that a lot with sort of New York queens who haven't got a lot of money. Best one in the world. So there is a bit of that going on, but I'm just like, what? Seriously, what the fuck? Simone. Right, I have one thing to say here. Simone was robbed. I mean, robbed. Right, and on top of that, I didn't even spot the name in there. He had to point it out to me. Well, mention it, and then I kept going, turn, and you didn't show the back of her head again, so I've still not seen her name written in her hair. But I still felt that way without that. If you're going to add that level into it as well, I'm thinking, oh my God, that's someone who sat down with, you used to get the bead craft thing, didn't you, when you were a kid, and you make little things with beads. Christ on a bike, wowzers. How has Simone not won that?
It was an amazing outfit. It was... Also, again, I think for an African American queen, it was a really good sort of reference back to sort of like cultural links.
Yeah, totally.
To be fair, in much the same way that I think Olivia's outfit was as well, because again, it was that very sort of sort of young kid growing up in the projects with the beaded hair and everything. But Simone, I think, took it to like a whole other level. With like, I think literally I think pretty much her entire outfit was beads, and obviously again she did the full sort of African beaded hair. And like I said, when she turned around and and it's not just her name spelled out, she had like the bloody banding on either side of it as well. It was just flawless. I would also.
So yeah, but with that though, so she sat down, not just done beads so it spells it all out and attached it to the wig or whatever. She's worked it out so that once it's on her head and following the shape of her head, it still works. Yeah. That's like that's maths. That's fucking Carol Vorderman maths, that is.
And I would just like to say, as we are 16 minutes into sort of this video...
Oh, the video that I had nothing to say about.
Yes, that was originally literally going to be a 90-second job of him going, Simone was robbed, and that was it.
Look, everyone knows, once you start me talking, it could be about shit, and I'm going to keep going for hours. So, Tina, Clown and Shiny. Yeah, it was okay.
Was this the one I commented on that it was nice for her to be doing different? Yes,
different
it
colours,
was, because it was different colours, because she was doing like the iridescence thing with the blouse. Yeah. So yeah, again, it was campy. It was definitely drag, but it's sort of middle of the road.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, to be fair to Tina, you don't know what's going to walk out on the runway before or after you. So I don't think that's any slight on her at all. No. Like, I think she answered that challenge her way, and that's absolutely fine. It just so happened that there were people that just really fucking elevated it, and others that really didn't. And lastly, Elliot with 2 T's.
This, I think, was possibly my favourite. Probably, I'd say, joint favourite with Simone.
The 20s flapper girl.
The 20s flapper girl that was literally just all beads. So, so as it moved, you could actually see, it wasn't attached to fabric. She'd literally made a flapper dress out of bead strings. And it was done, I think, you had like the pride colours on there as well. Yeah. It was absolutely amazing.
And I think that to me, there was something, I mean, again, not a fashion expert in any way, shape or form. I'm basing this probably largely on gangster films and Thoroughly Modern Millie. But it kind of, it didn't...
You're thinking Bugsy Malone, aren't you? What do you do about gangster movies?
Yes, and a little bit of like Al Capone stuff that I've seen. But I can't actually think of an Al Capone movie. Oh, The Untouchables. There we go. We'll go with that one. That probably isn't right at all. But...
Godfather?
No, they're not set then, are they?
But no, The Untouchables would have been set then.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't remember anyone wearing anything like this in The Untouchables that I can think of, but anyway. So let's just go Thoroughly Modern Millie and just stick to what we know, shall we? But it was, I mean, that sort of beaded look is right, it's period. It is, you think of the sort of, that's become quite popular in the last 10 years, that kind of very soft art of the 20s woman. And you can get it on like cups and little figurines.
Like the Art Deco stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But
Nouveau,
quite often, like the skull caps that were in were beaded and stuff like that. So actually, there's a real sense of a
Chicago.
There we go. There'll be one eventually.
I was thinking with the hair as well.
It's
very like
the whole
Chicago
thing.
Bob.
So it's so it's a yes, it's beaded, but it's also where it belongs. So I think there was an extra point score to have there. I think just because for being right about it. But yeah, I loved it. I really, really loved it. I thought it was a really nice look. I thought it was presented very well as well.
Yes.
The way she came around the corner, paused, drew on the cigarette, and then carried on. I thought, this is kind of...
This is a character. This is a story.
Totally. You know that if you talk to Elliot, she's got a name, and he'll probably know a little bit about where she's come from and what she does, and she's probably some sort of socialite hustler, and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought it was great. I thought it was a really, really... It was because she essentially came second, right?
Another thing you didn't know, Unicorn and the Wasp. It's that same sort of styling and era.
Oh yeah. So I'm doing really well at this, aren't I? which is also one of my favourites of that season of Doctor Who. So I really should have thought of that. So that was this week's Drag Race USA.
I'm glad Elliot won the lip sync because I think Elliot killed the lip sync.
Oh yeah, Elliot was in the bottom, wasn't she? Christ, that's what saying she came second. No, she's fucking in the bottom. And
Olivia was lugged.
because home.
Yes, and to be fair, I think again the right decision was made because I love Lala to bits. I think she's and she absolutely. I think she's a classic example of when Rue. I'm not going to use the V word because it pisses me off. But when Rue talks about, I saw that bringing sort of your personality as a queen, as a performer, as drag to the judges. Lala, I think, was the classic sort of poster child for not doing that because away from the runway, in terms of her personality, in terms of her humour, how she comes across, she was absolutely far enough. Yeah, she killed that episode of Untucked.
Was it Untucked? Where they did the run around the room?
It
was hilarious.
Well, there was that as well.
What was that moment? Oh, it was the Maury. They reconstructed Maury, didn't they?
But no, I'm talking about a few weeks back when basically Tamisha and Candy had that sort of stand up, throw down, screaming match with each other.
Yeah.
And literally, you have 10-15 minutes of. And Lala just basically stole the entire thing by literally just walking over and going, well, that's this week's episode of Untucked taken care of.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And literally just one fucking sentence, not even anything. She basically owned that episode of Untucked. And she didn't bring...
And diffused that situation.
Yeah, and she didn't bring any of that to the runway. And I think it's a real shame because I think she did have a lot more that she could have brought. But for whatever reason, she didn't. So she was the right person to go home. I'm sad she went home because I did like her, but Elliot,
I think she was ready.
Yeah,
you kind of get that sense, don't you, that sometimes they're at the end of their journey anyway.
I could see Lala coming back for an All-Stars.
But again, yeah, then those people tend to be sort of All-Stars tends to be those people, or the people that literally came second.
Yeah,
that's the DNA of All-Stars, isn't it? Really.
Stop trying to jump on the table.
Ace, be in the video.
No, Ace.
No, not having it. No, I'm not happy unless I'm knocking the camera over. That's my contribution here. So I now have this on my lap. I can't actually get to stop the video. We're kind of done.
So see you, folks.